Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm your host Clayton at ClaytesAFC on Twitter, joined by my co-host at FPL Nima, here to review another 6-0 victory on the road, emptying stadiums everywhere we go. How did you find that on Monday?
It was surreal. I was talking to a colleague at work, and they were like saying, I'm a bit nervous. Everyone thinks this is going to be a walk in the park. We shouldn't take them lightly, and I agree with that. We need to stay humble for these last 11 games. But I told him that I kind of thought maybe Sheffield will put up a fight for 5 minutes, and then it would be done and dusted as a competition. I didn't quite expect my words to be taken at such face value with Odegaard's goal in the fourth minute, and then it just looked like a total implosion from there. It's one of the most entertaining games I've watched this season, actually. People were asking the players, "Did you feel sorry for Sheffield United?" And Ben White in his interview said, "No, like absolutely not. Like we got to finish them off and kill them."
Is
So
that what he
yeah,
said?
just
Nice.
well, he didn't say kill them, but he basically said like, "No, absolutely not. Like we're here to
Ruthless.
like win. Yeah, like we're ruthless." So
I love it.
unbelievable. I mean, such great spirits, man. Like obviously excited to be here with you to talk through it. Third away win, is it, of more than 5 goals margin in a
Yeah, I
row?
think
It's,
it's another, like, I feel like every game at the minute is just like a new record. Like this one was 10,000th goal. Was it on 10,000th goal for Arsenal? I think
yeah,
I
I think
read somewhere.
so. Yeah, it
So
is.
Ben White, that will be the trivia quiz in about 10, 15 years. And yeah, I think it's just like similar to you. Like I was expecting a bit of a tough start and like them to really get into us, but even that period of the first 5 minutes, the way we were just knocking it about, it just felt like the goal was coming any minute. And it's kind of surreal how good we are. Like I said this on Twitter, I've said this on Slack channels I'm in. I don't think I've ever consistently seen an Arsenal team this good and dominate to a consistent, sustainable level like this. Like I'm finding it so surreal, and I think I'm also finding it surreal because Arsenal fans that have paid attention have known this has been coming for a long time, right? We've both said on this pod for like loads of times over the last 18 months, like there's going to be a period of dominance coming. Like you can see it's bubbling, and it feels like it's clicking. And it's a big statement, but I really think we're going to have a City-esque dominant period over the next few years. I really do.
I think so. Yeah, I would say that there's a reason we're starting to see a lot of hatred on the timeline telling us we can't be happy or enjoy watching the entertaining football. And that hatred is because people who've kind of watched us go through our banter era all this time, I think they're just finally realizing that like last year wasn't a one-off, and like we're on the ascendancy, and like we would hope to stay here and compete at the top with the very best for the coming years. And I think now that that's dawned on them that that is a thing, and we're here to stay and fight, now they're getting really upset.
It's
Like it's
like
crazy.
reality hit, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like all this time, they were delusional enough to like. I was looking at some predictions. I got some receipts from last summer ready to come out this summer, and the predictions had like Arsenal finishing between fifth and eighth, and
Yeah.
that's after last season. You would have thought they'd learned from the prior year's predictions when they thought we'd also finish outside
I
the top
know
four,
everyone's
but we
saying
didn't
we had a
stick around.
seeding and this and that. Oh, it's such nonsense. But yeah, let's we'll get into reviewing the game. But just before we do, we've got Delia in the chat, and she's right. Oh wow, this is an early one. Saying hello on my way to work. We'll listen more later. Have a good day, Delia. We had a nightmare yesterday trying to get the pod schedule. I think we had to reschedule 3 times. So we've managed to go bright and early today before everyone's day at work. So if you're listening on your commute, have a good day. But into it. So lineup versus Sheffield United. I personally was surprised he went for the same team. I think you predicted it from
I
memory.
think so. Yeah, I think I remember thinking that I'd said no changes. I thought Jorginho
Yeah.
would stay in, right?
Yeah, so for the podcast listeners, obviously it was Raya in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Kivior, midfield three, Jorginho, Rice, Odegaard, and front three of Saka, Havertz, Martinelli. We won't go player by player today because there is so much to cover from this game in terms of there were 6 goals that we have to talk through. But in terms of when the lineup came out, obviously, Nima, you predicted it on Friday. Yeah, how are you feeling when it came out? Like you spoke a little bit about you were talking to your colleagues during the day. They were a little bit nervous. How did you feel once
Yeah,
you saw the team?
exactly. Yeah, like once I saw the team, I think I felt really confident, to be honest. I felt like the game had been won in the tunnel. I don't know if you've seen the videos
Yeah.
since, but there was kind of like an aura between Raya and the back line, and the way they kind of just took turns to
The way they just
look
stared them
across
down.
at their opponent. Yeah, it's like a gazelle being stared down by a tiger. It's just the way they did it as well. It was like Saliba and Gabriel like look up after we've had Ben White give them the dirty look first, and Raya's there like pouting and shit. Like genuinely, I think like they looked over and it reminded me of a kind of back in the Invincibles era where it's kind of like if you look at your opponent and you see fear in their eyes, that match is won.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
before you even step on the grass, you look over and they look fucking petrified. That's gonna give you like all you need to go that final distance and like fully put them to the sword. So it just felt like a festive day, man. Like I was honestly so excited. The one thing I was gutted about is if Saka had scored another goal, he would have joined only 2 other players to score 3 successive braces in away games.
Wow. Do you know
So
who
that
the
was
others are?
quite.
Because I'm
I
guessing
think
it's
it's
good
like
company.
I think it's like Harry Kane and Salah or Haaland or something.
Damn.
And that's
Okay.
it. Like no one else in the Premier League's done it.
Yeah, no, it's absolute ridiculous levels of dominance, which we'll see when we go on to the next slide. Just before we go through that, got Roy Keck in the chat. Good morning, mate. Yeah, as you can see, for people watching on YouTube, you can see it, but for the podcast listeners, I'll just read it out. It was another ridiculous level of dominance, and I think we broke a new Phil Tilt FC title record. So, XG, according to Markar stats model, Sheffield United had a grand total of 0.16, which I think is becoming the norm now, sub 0.3, what we give up. We had 2.82. Our threat was 2.32 to their 0.29. Possession 80.5 to their 19.5. And then Phil Tilt records 91.6 to 8.4. Like, do you remember what I said in the preview about what I predicted how this game would go? I said I'd predicted like we'd break records for like dominance in terms of final third entries and touches in the opponent's box, and like although that didn't quite happen, the level of dominance panned out exactly how I thought. Like when I was watching the game, I actually felt sorry for Sheffield United, because once we got the first goal in 5 minutes, I was like, it's done. And every time they got the ball and they tried to exit, there was just nowhere for
The
them to
counter
go.
press was disgusting. Yeah, like I just felt like as soon as we lost the ball, they wouldn't get like even a millisecond to breathe. Like they were being hunted down in packs. Like it's just that kind of dominance, as you say. I felt like we were playing with an extra man. Like when I
I
watched
did,
that
yeah.
first half, I genuinely every time I looked up, the runners, the off the ball movement, like I was like, wow, like this is a well-oiled machine. Like it is really clicking, like you say. Like, we were doing a lot of the same stuff in December, but the goals weren't going in.
Yeah.
And like suddenly now, like since the bye break and a bit of rest, it feels that we've managed to convert these chances. But I honestly look at that team now, and that's the team I want against Porto. Like
Same.
I think that's the team that performed like this in these last few games and got you here. I wouldn't be looking to rush in Jesus, Zinchenko, Party. Like you asked me 2 months ago, I would think they walk into our best 11. But football changes, right? And like these few months, these other players have come in, and like Kivio with another attacking contribution again. Like he's growing in confidence. Like how can
Yeah.
you take these guys out? Like have a third successive Premier League goal and assist in the last 2. Like he's now outscored in non-penalty goals like nearly every attacker in the top
I
6
think he's
clubs.
beaten Cole Palmer now for non-pen goals, and like it's funny how the
He's beating them
narratives are
all.
different on them two.
Yeah, he's beating them all. Like he's beating Madison too, and he was signing at a season.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And like you make a good point, because I don't know if you saw this in the post-match interviews that Odegaard did, where he was on Monday Night Football and they kind of asked and joked about Dubai, right? And like, my opinions. Like, I think that everyone's running on the lazy narrative about like Dubai. But like, I think there's been tactical tweaks since then as well. But he hinted at like they were tired and they needed a rest. And like, I remember saying that in December, like the squad was so thin and the type of games we had to play, like Villa away, and my mind's gone blank now, but I remember there were 2 or 3 games in that period where I remember thinking, as an example, if we had everyone fit, Zinchenko wouldn't have been playing. But as a result, we are Anfield away, obviously, Liverpool. That's one where, in an ideal world, Zinchenko wouldn't have played. And I think people outside of Arsenal circles weren't really giving us that context of they're running thin right now. Like, I believe that period in between Christmas and New Year was just a bad patch of variance. Like, shit happens. But the period before that, I really think we were just running on empty. Like, we were having to play Champions League, Premier League football with a squad of 12, 13 competent players. And you see it now when they've had that rest. You've added more tactical players. People are coming back. Like, we're firing on all cylinders, and it doesn't look like there's a weakness to this team right now, which is terrifying. But yeah, I found that interesting that even Odegaard said in the interview that they needed a rest, basically. So yeah, we're seeing the rewards of it. But yeah, 1-0, we're 1-0 up 5 minutes, and then the second goal happens. It was the own goal, and even though that was in the 13th minute, I feel like Saka had that left back's number early. Like, I felt sorry for him.
That was very weird because I think it was Trusty, and obviously he's an Arsenal player, so I don't know. Like, he normally doesn't play there, so it's like I don't know what happened that he ended up in this specific game playing there. Like, what was that decision? What was the tactics like?
Well, because then it was Trusty to start, and then they made the sub, and then Trusty moved more central, and then someone else played like the wing back, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's almost like they conceded the mistake of like that tactical decision like very quickly. I don't feel great for the guy who got subbed that early in the game, like 16 minutes in, but
I think, to be fair, that was just that's Oliver Norwood, who's one of their key players. I think, to be honest, it was probably just a case of wrap him in cotton wool. Like,
they were like, you know what, we're 3-0 down 14 minutes in, like, let's just keep somebody in the team safe. Like,
but like, I just felt like even that second goal, like the way Saka was picking up the ball in pockets and even out wide and driving at the fullback, like, we know how good he is, but even this looked like he had another level to go up. It was kind of scary. Like, every time we got the ball in the right, I was like, there's going to be a chance here.
I don't know if it's just me, but I felt like it was almost like a game where it was like 11 players versus Saka. Like, it felt like that's all that they were only defending Saka, it felt like to me. And yet he still found ways through to get assists.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on? Because ultimately there was a few moments, I don't know if it was this goal or like other ones that he was involved in, but where he kind of, I guess the defender thought he was going to go on the inside.
Yeah.
But he does a turn and actually goes on his outside. And then next thing you know, he's in.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, that's probably why he's always doubled and tripled up on, because the moment he's with one person, he can just get around you. Whatever you think he's going to do, he will go the other way and get past. Like, he's a slippery guy. He somehow gets through. And I don't think I respected Saka's dribbling game much. It's been very easy to think that he's not like an amazing dribbler because he's always got 3 men sitting on top of him.
Yeah.
The level of respect he gets from opponents. So that's what I was trying to say, I guess, is the summary is it feels like Sheffield's game plan, Sheffield United, was let's just all defend him. It's like we'd get the ball out wide to the right, as you say, and then I see him the furthest wide on the width of the pitch. And then within 2-3 passes of quick one-touch football, he's in the box waiting. And him, White, Odegaard, they're all changing places. Everyone's covering each other, moving into different zones. Like, it just honestly felt beautiful. Like, I don't get it how it's clicked so well. I just don't get it.
I know. It's the next slide, which we'll look at in a bit, is the passing networks, and that is like a piece of art when you see it. It's genuinely.
I think that would be one of the mental ones, because obviously Saliba alone, he himself had more passes than the whole of Sheffield United in that match. Like, that's mental. 169 passes from Saliba.
Yeah, I know.
I think there's only 2 other players who've like passed that many times, and it's like both Man City players.
Really fucking hell.
There's a lot of the passes, man, in a single game for a single player. What the hell?
Yeah, so we're 2-0 up at this stage. We're cruising. I'm thinking like it's going to be another 5-6-0, and then literally 2 minutes later, Martinelli makes it 3, and Kiwior got a little assist in there. And I feel like both of them have just been performing well, and I was happy for Martinelli because I feel like there's been goals galore, but he hasn't really had his share of them. So it was nice to see him on the score sheet there as well.
But what an assist, because I don't like Kiwior. It was like a no-look cutback. Like, when I watched the replay, I didn't notice on the day, but I watched the replay yesterday, and I was like, wait a second, like he's definitely growing in confidence if he's attempting stuff like this. Like
It
he
was
wouldn't
after he
have
met
just
me in
tried
the
that.
park, innit? He just got that way.
Exactly. Yeah, if anyone in the podcast listeners hasn't seen it, there's a photo of Clayton with Kiwi or Yakub. They met each other in the park, and Yakub asked for a photo with for. He's a big fan of Clayton, it turns out.
Yeah, he listens to the pod, obviously.
Obviously, but yeah, no, really happy for him. It just, I think, you know what I love is I feel like they will die for each other. Like it genuinely feels like the way they like go and celebrate each other's goals, the way that they're united front with each other, it just makes me really happy. And it kind of makes me now wonder like how I feel going into the next game. I'm sure we'll talk about at the end of the week, but just because of Raya, because again, this was another
Yeah.
game where I felt like it's gone very quiet on that front, right? Like it feels like almost like the criticisms ended the moment we started putting the ball in the net.
Yeah, true.
The
That's the way with
frustrations were,
football, isn't it?
yeah, it's like the frustrations were there in December when we were playing the exact same way, but because we weren't being clinical or variants or whatever, the goals weren't going in. The debate back then was we disrupted the whole team. What a terrible plan. We've barely lifted the ceiling of the team. Why would you buy this player? Fast forward 2 months later, and we scored like 30 goals and conceded 2 or something in the entire calendar year. And suddenly it's like you don't hear a peep about Raya. Now
Yeah,
people are
that's true.
saying, let's say our farewell to Ramsdale. That's how you know so much has changed in the last 2 months, because now they're saying, guys, this Saturday might be the last time Ramsdale plays at the Emirates. Let's give him a send off. Let's show him our love. I'm like, 2 months ago, you all were saying send Raya back.
Yeah.
Now you're
It's,
saying let's say goodbye to Ramsdale. Like, how fast did that change?
I think
So
that's the thing. Like football fans are so fickle, right? It's like don't get me wrong. I had my reservations on Raya early in the season, but like he has come into his own, and you can see, you know, when you talk about that kind of extra man feeling, I think it's from him. I think it's because it all stems from how high he enables us to play, and when the ball eventually ends up in his zone, he's like another centre back in there, in possession anyway. So yeah, it's unbelievable to watch, man. I think the thing that impressed me the most though was we're 3-0 up in 15 minutes, and these guys are still pressing like dogs. Like I think that's the sort of thing where you don't know, are they now just gonna take the piss,
it's
like
easy
pass
to
it
get
around?
complacent, right? It's
Yeah, and
easy
I
to switch off.
didn't see any of that, and you still saw Odegaard like commanding and directing everyone with the same level of intensity as he does in the first minute, in the 90th minute. If we're chasing a goal, we're 3-0 up away at Sheffield United in 15 minutes, and he's still got that same level of intensity, and that's why I love him as a captain, because he sets the tone and the example. And then we're like the 10-minute period in between the third and the fourth goal, and then Mr. Shakira gets on the score sheet with that was an unbelievable finish. And like, I can't lie, the tackle on Martinelli did make me laugh. Like, I don't think I'd be laughing if we didn't get a foul.
Do you know
And
why it made me laugh? It was because the Sheffield United players were asking the ref to call the game back for a foul they committed. They
yeah, I
thought
know.
their player got fouled by Martinelli. And then when I see the replay, the way he gets dragged down from his bloody jersey, straight dashed onto the floor, I was like, only against Arsenal is this like not a yellow card? Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck is this? This is unacceptable. Like,
I
how
know.
can you get away with this shit?
And that's
Like,
the thing. For
you
what?
like if we'd not won the way we did, we would be out there fuming. But because we won, it's kind of dusted under a carpet and
I was just.
PGMO just carry on.
I'm glad you said that, because like I've seen some people saying, "Oh, guys, we won, move on," and it's like, yeah, but on another day, that is a decision we don't get. And look, it resulted in a goal. Like it on another day, it doesn't result in a goal, but it could have done. And yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like when you see these inconsistencies. Obviously, we won 6-0. We don't want to be focusing on, oh, we should have had a foul, but like I think it's more just to highlight where we're coming from when we talk about the shit
I
level
think
of
it's
refereeing.
I think it's just the way that like obviously the fair play to the ref for playing advantage. Like that is like the fact that it ended up in the goal and he
Yeah,
played advantage, fair play to him for that. So I will give him that. But to not go back and retrospectively give a yellow, that sets a
exactly.
precedence that you can just do whatever you want and kick us around. And I think when I was watching the game, like obviously we know Saka, we talk about him getting kicked a lot, but in this game, I saw Martinelli getting kicked off the park, like
Well,
pretty
he
much
went
the
off
entire
injured
match.
with a cut, right? I know
That's what I
the
mean. Like he's got a gash on his foot. Like how else is your foot open underneath a protective boot
yeah. It
unless you're
looked
getting
bad as
battered?
well because like, he couldn't walk. So yeah, that must be a stitches job. Like that looked really bad. But on that fourth goal,
Yeah,
whenever
what did you
Havertz,
think when he went through? Yeah, because obviously we've said that sometimes he doesn't
so
like
this is
it's not felt like he's made the right choice when shooting, but this felt very much like a striker. This shot he took on was it his left foot? The
yeah, yeah.
way he kind of got it into the corner placement,
So
just
for me,
no
what was
hesitation.
interesting is like there's been other periods in the season where he's won, like the Liverpool game, he was 1-on-1, and I was like, he's not going to score, he's not going to score. There was another period in the season where he was, another game, he was 1-on-1, and I just didn't think he was going to score. In this game, I don't know what it was, and it was a tighter, tougher angle. I thought he's going to bury this, and it was like it was in the corner of the box, and he smacked it into the bottom corner, like precision. And for once, I felt confident in him before he took the shot, and I don't know if that says something about how he's performing as well, because I think he's been absolutely brilliant recently. And as a centre forward, I think the dynamism he gives us is incredible. Like I was super happy for him. He's someone that he's returning every week at the minute, right?
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Like everything he does, even when he's not involved, right? So I don't know if you saw the unbelievably beautiful long crossfield pass that came in. I think it was from Odegaard all the way up to
Oh,
Martinelli.
that was disgusting. That was like a FIFA pass.
Yeah, because normally, like when you see passes like that in football, normally they're like these floated, lofty passes that like slowly come over. Hollywood passes that by the time they get there, the defense is set up because like they just look nice, but there's no fucking venom in them.
Yeah,
This is how you do a long pass. It was just like boom, direct,
yeah.
straight one.
And it's
But
the way
when
like cut through and over the ball, right?
yeah, exactly. It was beautiful. But what I found crazy about it is when you then look to speaking of Havertz, bringing it back to him, when you see that the space that opens up for Odegaard to get it to Martinelli, that space only opens up because like a millisecond before, Havertz runs straight into the box and takes the defender and the fullback with him.
Yeah,
And then as soon as he runs into the box, the Odegaard ball goes flying across the entire pitch right on Martinelli's foot on the edge of the box. And then you can see the Sheffield United back line. They're like, oh shit. Like, he's like on his own. He's isolated. Like, and it's always Havertz. I
yeah.
didn't think of it.
It's
I
so
said
smart.
before I like his movement, but it feels like now his movement is actually unlocking the rest of the team when he's doing it from centre forward. He's
Yeah,
bringing everyone else into play with him. And I do think that without him, we aren't going to be scoring this number of goals. And
agree.
like obviously, like you saw Jesus come on later on, and he provides something different. But I thought we looked less fluid. Like no tarnishing of Jesus's name, but it did feel that when Havertz was up top at the start of the game versus when Jesus was up top later, that I thought we looked much better with Havertz up top, and I never
Yeah,
thought I'd be saying that.
yeah. I get the point. I think there's an element of so we were 5-0 up, right? So that I think naturally we wouldn't be anyway. But yeah, I take the point. To be fair, like it'll be interesting to see now because I think there'll be certain games where it's like, yeah, that's a Jesus centre forward game, and there'll be certain games where it's like that's a Havertz centre forward game. And you said it earlier. I think that Porto one right now screams to me Havertz up top, like same team right
Bring
now.
in Jorginho. It kind of shows us what we were severely missing in the first leg of if only we'd gone with that Jorginho pivot. Yeah. And Rice
Yeah,
with another return as well. Oh my God.
yeah,
All in
man.
the first half. We've not even left the first half.
And
We're
even that,
24 minutes.
it was another one where like Saka gets the ball and it just I don't know how he does this. It's like he starts with 2 yards of space and he ends with 5 or 6. Like his body manipulation to just create. It's like he creates extra space on the pitch and then like he whips in the ball and Rice just arrives nicely and bang a wallop 5-0 halftime. Thank you very much. Empty the stadium again. Like, I was
Yeah,
so
when I saw people leaving on the TV and it was like 15 minutes in, I was like, no, this is rough. Like,
I was
this is
so
really
sad
rough.
because I had a ticket for the game, but obviously I've injured my knee, so I've been like bedbound all week, and I was just so sad I wasn't there. You could hear the away fans just having such a jolly.
They were at least they seem to be in good spirits still. But no, that Rice goal as well, that takes him to double digits for the season. We now have 5
Yeah,
players on double digit goal contributions in the Premier League. It's the most of any club. Yeah, like Declan Rice as well. I'm really loving what I'm hearing in his interviews these days about he's
same.
got targets for the season, he says, for goals, for assists. He's got like cheeky little wages with his friends in the office. And yeah, he's keen to change that side of his game. Like you could argue he's one of the, if not the best number 6 in world football right now. and yet there is so much more he could do further up the pitch that now I'm wondering, like, you know, his capacity to learn and his willingness to grow. If you combine that with the skill set he already has, like, he could go down as an all-timer.
100%.
Genuinely.
Yeah, this is
Genuinely.
like, again,
if he stays with us for the next 5 to 10 years, he could be an all-timer midfielder in the Premier League. Like, he looks unreal. I still can't believe we have him. Like, what a coup.
To be honest, I'm still surprised by how good he is. Like, I knew he was good at West Ham, but like, I didn't really deep the. You know, Arteta described him as a lighthouse. I didn't deep that level, I guess. Like, and the one thing I'll say with my chest, and like I've said this multiple times, like, this Arsenal team will dominate for years to come. Like, we'll be challenging for the Premier League every year. I think we'll be consistent Champions League semi-finalists for a few years minimum. Like, good luck to people, because the level of dominance we're showing is still not normal. And again, you know, I always talk about like outcome-based opinions. Like, I still think loads of people won't realize how good this Arsenal team is until they win a trophy.
Like,
and if anything,
if we don't win one, they'll think we didn't have.
But
a
I
good
think
season.
that suits us because it gives us more time to just go about doing our thing, like rack up the points. Like, next season, fucking hell, man. Like, if we start next season like how we're playing right now, I don't think anyone will get near us, genuinely. And like, I know that's a bit of a tangent, but I think it's like being led in the center by someone like Declan Rice. Like, you've got Saliba, Gabriel at the back as a partnership. The way the attack is flowing, it's just such a beautifully crafted squad. It's genuinely genius squad planning, and I still don't think it gets the credit it deserves. But anyway, that made it 5-0. It's halftime. Vieira came on for Saka at halftime, which I thought was resting Saka, but it turns out we had an illness. So hopefully it can't be that bad if he started the game. So hopefully he'll be fine. And then final goal. Disappointing final goal, 58th minute. Didn't go and make it 10, but Benny White with the Arsenal's 10,000th goal, absolutely walloped it with his left foot. Thought that was a brilliant play, bit of centre forward play from Havertz as well.
Yeah, again, like, he just seems to be involved. Even like just before we got this goal, even in the first goal from Odegaard, there's that moment where he like removes his foot out the way. And it's like this, I don't know whether he got a shout behind him or he just had a sixth sense and he knew Odegaard was going to be in a better spot. But he just always seems to be there or thereabouts when the chaos is happening and the goals are going in. He's really come into his own. But speaking of Ben White, my God, he cracks me up as well. He was just like, yeah, like, you know, I whacked it. And then, like, obviously, like, I wasn't looking at the goal. And so I didn't know if it went in or not. But then I had my back to the goal and I heard the crowd go crazy. So I thought, yeah, I must have scored. He goes,
so he said,
yeah. He was like, I don't score often, so it feels great. But, you know, like, I just whacked it and, like, you know, I turned around because I was turning on the swing of the shot and I didn't see what happened. But then the reaction of the fans,
a joker, man.
But he just cracks me up. I was like, bro, you don't watch football when you go home. You don't even watch the fucking goal you score. Like, I love you so much, man. He's just so funny, man. Like, he's just so funny, honestly.
And he's someone that, why I love him is, you know, you spoke about Rice's capacity to learn. I think White's got it as well. Like, the way he's played, sometimes three, sometimes 4 roles in a game. He's always available. He never drops like below a 7 out of 10, really. Like, I think he's one of the most underrated and consistent players in the Premier League, genuinely.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's crazy that we're in a situation where the starting right-hand side for England at the Euros won't be Ben White and Saka, who already have the connection from club level. It is mental when you deep that. Like I understand Walker's fantastic, but like, there's only so many more tournaments he's going to be there for. And it seems like Trent may play midfield at times for England, like in a back three or something. So it's like there is a spot for him there. And I don't know what quite happened or whatever happened.
I think something definitely happened behind the scenes, right?
I was going to say, like, as an Arsenal fan, selfishly, I don't care. Like, save his energy for Arsenal. But it is sad because I know that for a lot of footballers, like, the biggest dream you have growing up is scoring a goal for your team in the World Cup. But yeah, he don't need to give a shit. Yeah, he just cares about doing his craft at Arsenal. And I hear that the contract's pretty much done and dusted. It's not been announced yet. And he gave out an interview saying, I want to stay here forever, kind of thing. So
yeah, saw that.
It's good noise. It's good noise coming up. But yeah, happy for him to score. He doesn't score often, as we said. What did you think of all the returning boys? It's nice to have a bench that looked a bit deeper for once as well,
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna say the bench looks so strong. So if I just quickly run through what the bench was, so it was Vieira, Cedric, Partey, Jesus, Trossard, Ramsdale, Smith Rowe, and Nketiah, Nelson. Like that is strong. And do you remember again what I said on the preview? Like when you add in Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Timber to that as well, there's going to be some big people that miss out there. Like obviously Cedric won't be in the squad. Nelson probably will miss out, but then there's going to be one high-profile player that gets cut every squad, I think. And yeah, it was nice to see. Like, who were the subs that actually came on? I need to remind myself. Obviously, Vieira came on for Saka at halftime. Then Jesus came on for the injured Martinelli. Partey on for Jorginho. Cedric on for Ben White, and Trossard on for Rice 10 minutes later. Were you surprised Smith Rowe didn't get any minutes?
Yeah, but kind of. Part of me was thinking it was because we need to make sure the guys who've not been getting minutes through injury, like say Vieira and Partey, that Jesus, like they're all kind of ready for when we get to the next game against Porto, Brentford, City. Like it feels like there's only 2 more games before Man City. Like we only play 3 more games this month, right?
Yeah,
We're on the 6th of March and there's only 3 more matches and 2 of them are next week. So it's
yeah,
like
true.
I felt like with Smith Rowe, like it was a bit sad to not see him get on, but I'm now starting to think that the likes of Smith Rowe, Eddie, and Nelson, like, I don't see where they get minutes in these next 11 Premier League games. Like, I'm starting to think that with everyone else back, they're going to have less and less opportunities to come on and, like, make a claim for themselves. Like, it's not
Yeah,
looking great. Like, we're talking about players not making match their squads. I have no doubt that some of those players won't be here next year because they're going to want to get on with their careers. And as much as I was hoping it would be with us, I'm not sure all 3 of them will be in the squad next season. So it's
yeah.
difficult. Like, we've not barely seen Eddie since, even though
Oh, I think
Jesus has been out.
Eddie and Nelson, I'm like
Yeah, those 2 I'm sure are going to
95%
be
sure
gone.
will
Yeah.
go. Yeah, Smith Rowe, I can't make up my mind on, to be honest. But in terms of when will he get minutes, I still think Brentford at home, like if we're winning, he may get minutes. And one thing I was thinking is, did the sub of Trossard hint to the starting 11 for Brentford? Because like we know Jorginho can't play consecutive games, right? As in,
And he's just
when I say
done 2
consecutive,
for the first time.
I know he's just done it, but I mean, like, can he then play Brentford and Porto within a few days? I doubt it. So I wonder if Trossard coming on was a hint at, well, not a hint, but get Trossard some minutes, like keep him in a rhythm, because he didn't play last week, right? And then it will be the Trossard Havertz combination against Brentford, and then the Havertz
Then
Jorginho.
bring Jorginho back in, the next match.
Yeah, because one not concern I had, but one thought I had, which I said to my flatmate, like, when it was 6-0, 60th minute, yeah, and they were just passing it around, and like you could see some sloppiness creep in naturally. Like Saliba misjudged the ball rolled under his foot. There were some sloppy passes. Obviously, you've changed half of your team. I said to my flatmate, like, I wonder if psychologically that has an impact on the next game, like ending the final 30 minutes of a football game in gear 1. Like, I wonder if that impacts how
That
you
is something
start
I
the
was
next game.
worried about. Yeah, I was starting to think to myself, like, what happens if we keep, like, in some of these matches, not every game, but some of these matches, what happens if we keep, like, steamrolling the first half and then playing the second half and
I mean,
second year because the
it's
game's like
not an
a
issue, I guess.
non-contest?
It was
Like,
more
it
like,
preserves energy, but I was thinking to myself, like,
does it
does
affect
that
how
have
we
an
start the
impact
next one?
negatively? Yeah, like, does it mean that we start to, like, have complacency creep in because you start to think that, like, results are a given and that at some point in any game you're gonna, like, go into, like, this kind of second gear, like you're not going to need to really try. So I don't know,
Yeah.
that does worry me a bit, but I do think that the games are going to get tougher. I think we've got to bear in
Yeah.
mind these last 2 games,
I think
these are
Brentford will
like
be
the
tough to
2
be fair.
worst teams. Yeah, Brentford will be tougher than I think so. Sheffield United and Burnley, I just feel that they are horrendous, man. Like Sheffield United are on minus 50 goal difference. Like it's just shocking. Like
Yeah.
it's shocking. With Brentford, I know we say they'll be better. Like Tony is back, but Brentford were almost sleepwalking themselves into a relegation battle too. Like they're not that much better. Like they're only 3-4 points ahead of the relegation zone themselves. So they're
True.
not that good either. I think like
Mm.
Tony being back is maybe going to save them. But there is a world in which like they also get battered like the rest of these guys, especially at
The
the Emirates. And the
the
history's
only
there. Like we've got
yeah.
that rivalry or whatever you want to call it.
The only reason I say that is they always make games difficult to play against them, like in terms of disrupting flow and yeah, like, you know, what Porto did in terms of the amount of minutes the ball was actually
Mm.
in play and flowing. Like, that's where I'm coming from more than like the actual football. But
Yeah, fair.
yeah, but yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll see. Like, we'll see how we come out of the blocks. I think that's the thing I like about this group, though. Like, even if an element of complacency creeps in, I back Arteta to just rip it out of them before the next game starts. And even if he sees it during a game too, like, I think what you see in the final half hour when you're 6-0 up is so natural. Like, it would be stupid to play with the same level of intensity, because like I'd argue that's just bad game management then. But yeah, it's just a thought. But just quickly before we look to wrap up, just like I said, the passing networks from Mark, our stat spot, wanted to bring this up because we saw something a little bit different in this game where Gabriel, it's quite difficult to see because the graphic is small, but Gabriel is actually slightly ahead of Jorginho in this game. And like, you can see the kind of partnership between Gabriel, Jorginho, Saliba, Rice obviously pushed up in that left 8 next to Kivio and Martinelli. And for me, it's just the spacing that you see in this team. And like, you know, I always say it's a work of art. Like, the overloads we have all over the pitch, the distances between people, it's on autopilot. Like, we talk about when people move into different zones, someone else covers, and they all, I'd love to measure it on meters apart in different areas, because I reckon consistently in the game, no matter if it's Saka out wide, White out wide, Saka in the half space, Odegaard in the half space, sometimes White even in the bloody half space, I reckon meters between them all is always give or take 2 meters there or thereabouts. Like, it's so smart. The level of football intelligence everyone in this squad has to be insane to play this level of detailed football and make it look so easy, in my opinion. It blows my
So
mind.
speaking of these passes, I think it was like 870 passes from us in total or something. So on that note, I saw someone put a stat out. They were like, let's say the game was actually being played for about 60 minutes in play. Like, we know there's not 90 minutes of play in a football match, right?
Yeah.
So they were saying if you assume there was like 56 to 60 minutes played, and you then do how many passes did we make, it's actually a pass every 4 seconds for the 60 minutes the ball was in play. So when you kind of look at this passing network and deep that they made 800 passes, and if the match was really only 60 minutes of the ball in play, then that's 4 seconds a pass. That is a terrifying prospect when you then looked at the entire passing network as across the halfway line for anyone listening on podcasts. Like, in this graphic, Raya is outside of his own penalty box, is his passing network starting zone, and everyone else is in the opposition half.
Yeah,
It's
that's
honestly crazy.
I hadn't heard that stat. That's nuts. And like, I remember there was a period in the first half, right? I think we were definitely already winning because we went 1-0 up in 5 minutes, but we were just knocking it about in like our left, top left area of the pitch, right? So it was like Odegaard was drifting there, Rice was there, Kivio, Martinelli, Jorginho was joining in, and we were just popping it around them with such ease. It was like, the basics of when you play football as a kid, pass and move. But the way they were doing it was like, prime Barcelona, Xavi, Iniesta, like the way they used to pop it around and manipulate space. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And that's why I think of that when you bring up that stat about the pass every 4 seconds, because some of them were just bang, 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 like
That's
pass,
what I
pass,
mean. Yeah,
pass,
like it
pass.
felt so like fast and like just deliberate. Like,
Yeah.
I've gotten used to in the past where, when we look at the other obviously title challenges, like Liverpool are very direct. So like, once they get the ball, they move up the pitch very fast, right? But it also means some of their games can be a bit like basketball. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of back and forth, right? With City, they try to be more controlled and composed, but sometimes it feels like they're just kind of going from one side of the box to the other, passing it around, like without being able to get through and penetrate these deep
We're the
blocks.
blend of both, right?
Yeah, it feels like I'm finally now seeing, like, with the right personnel, with the people buying into what the coach wants and following his lead, it's all happening the way that we thought it would over the last few years. I know I don't say it like to sound like, oh, we told you so or anything. It's not that. It's just,
I am.
I'm
We
glad.
did.
Well, for me, it's more, I'm just glad to see that, like, what we thought we were buying into, the vision we believed in, that the
Oh, fuck
manager
everyone,
told
man.
us.
We told you so. Like, fuck them. Like, we
Arteta
deserve
told
this.
them so too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, I saw a presser from 3-4 years ago where when he first joined, and he says what he wants the club to play like. And now I listen to it and I'm like, it sounds like he's saying that today, because That's exactly what I'm seeing today. Like what he said he would do, he came and
He's
did
doing.
in his
Yeah,
first ever job as
I
a
know.
manager. Like that's crazy. And the other players, they talk about it, right? Like Ben White obviously has had to learn a new position. Rice is playing basically a different position. So all these players are saying, like, yeah, Arteta's the one who basically is telling them like what will happen and where the ball will be and how the game will unfold. And like people thought we were too robotic earlier in the season. I do feel maybe some of that individual quality of like relying on someone's individual brilliance isn't something we've seen much this season.
Yeah.
I feel like we have been more of a system, but I am starting to see more flair now and like confidence, not like for the sake of it, like, showboating or anything like that, but they're playing so good, it almost feels like showboating.
Yeah, and I think it's the structure that they're given allows them to have that creative freedom as well. Like when you put good structures in place with good players, it gives them the ability to showcase whatever they want within that zone because of the spacing between people. Like opposition, Sheffield United could not get near us. And I know it's Sheffield United, but it's the same with Burnley. It was the same with Newcastle. It was the same with West Ham. Like the structures we have in place are just so difficult to actually get any joy against. And like football can be unpredictable, right? But I love looking at football from a sustainable lens. And I think what is the most sustainable way to compete at the top level, keyword sustainably, is playing this style of football, in my opinion, because you mitigate risk all over the pitch and you maximize how much you can hurt people all over the pitch as well. And you see it with the output, right? Of like the goals we're conceding, minimal, the high quality chances we're conceding, minimal. And now, which we've seen in 2024, which we didn't really see earlier in the season, the volume of high quality chances is there as well. We are the best team in Europe right now. I will say that with my chest. We just have to go out and prove it with a trophy, unfortunately. But that December period for me, I'm just like, fuck, man, was that 1 point drop too many? But let's deal with that later. Let's just enjoy this for what it is, and yeah, just keep going, one game at a time, 5-0 at a time. Let's have some more of them.
I've got a few. I like to find those the match reports.
The rogue stats gone.
Yeah, I've got a few that I'd like to chuck out before we get out of here. So the first one is Bukayo Saka registered his 50th assist for us in all competitions. Since his debut for the Gunners in November 2018, he's just the 6th different Premier League player to register at least 50 goals and 50 assists in all competitions. The other 5 are Mohamed Salah, Heung-min Son, Bruno Fernandes, Riyad Mahrez, and Kevin De Bruyne. No one else since 2018 has 50 goals and 50 assists. He's the 6th player to register that. 2 seasons at left back as well. There we go. Martin Odegaard scored his 17th Premier League away goal since the 2021-2022 season started. So that's a few seasons nearly now. And the only other midfielder scoring more goals away from home in the competition is James Ward-Prowse. And this is the last one, which is quite fun because of who it involves. Kai Havertz has both scored and assisted in each of his last 2 Premier League games, becoming the first player for the Gunners to do so in successive matches in the competition since Henrik Mkhitaryan in February 2019.
Jesus.
So 5 years ago, Henrik Mkhitaryan scored and assisted in consecutive Premier League games, and no one else has done that for us in 5 years.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it was Mkhitaryan, to be
fair. That's the part that surprised me the most.
God. Right, we'll wrap that up and get out of here. We'll be back on Friday to obviously preview the Brentford game. And then we'll look to do the review of that before the second leg against Porto next Wednesday. So looking forward to that one. Big week ahead before a nice little break before the crunch run in. Let's get there. And I back us, to be fair. I think we're firing on all cylinders. I back us to take it to the wire this season. Not that we didn't last year, but yeah, we're looking in a good spot in the minute. Any more from you?
No, it's all good. Lovely to see you all. Thanks for tuning in. And hopefully it's another big weekend for us before Porto, and all attention will turn to that Champions League tie, right? Like it's a big game for us. And, I really hope that someone tracks us through to that quarterfinal. But We'll get there when we get
I
there.
hope we don't need dragging. I hope it's done with ease, but yeah, you can't be too complacent after what we saw in the away leg. But yeah, we'll be back on Friday. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Nice early one. So if you listen to this later on in the day, have a good day. For anyone watching live, please drop the stream a like, hit the subscribe button. And for anyone on podcast, please consider leaving us a review. It helps the channel quite a lot. Yeah, we'll be back on Friday. See you then. Up the Arsenal.
Come on, you Gunners.